name here. Oh, it's gonna come out like you're Jose, 'cause Jose was supposed to do this time, but we're gonna always change that, of course. And I want to thank you. I know this morning we attempted this. Got a little long-winded. All right, so here we go. We actually are. It says Jose again. We are live. Grandmaster Jerry Feffy Fontaine is here with another episode of UMAN OG Profile. Am I being redundant? I don't know. But what I'm saying is this. If you see behind me, that's what's considered a profile or a map. So the idea is that we're going to be interviewing people who are pioneers and legends and those aspiring to become ones too. And it can be done whether they're competitors and or not, whether they're instructors and or not. So there's a variety of people. So today we have a gentleman by the name of, I'm not sure what title he uses as a grandmaster. Is it grandmaster? That's a proper terminology? So your system, or is it, what do you use, sir?
Just go by Sensei.
Sensei Paul Mormando, which we found out today that there's a Mormando quest. That's another story anyway. So, sir, I want to thank, we know each other since, wow, we know of each other since the 80s, I would say. And an interesting story of how you and I actually got a chance to communicate.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's say that you. So we're gonna twist it around a little bit. So you tell that story. I think it's kind of cool.
So let's do it. It was like a week process till I actually got to the ability and I found your number and called you up. But what happened was one of my students was in the tournament and he came back and was talking about you, about you in the tournament. And then ironically, I'm gonna say it was like a week later, we just happened to be on the cover of the local newspaper together. So it was my student Pete at the time. Pete comes and says to me, "Oh, you know Jerry?" I said, "No, I don't know Jerry. We never met. I know of him. I just don't know. We never met." So I ended up, finding your number, calling you and telling you, and you had no idea you were on that cover of that paper, and that was it. And
I
since
called
then,
you a liar. I said, prove it to me.
exactly. And then we had a lot of things in common with the Grandmaster Aaron Banks, and just a lot of things in common.
Yeah, and that was I want to say like 1999 or something like that. So it's just before the turn of the century. And I was in Elizabeth, New Jersey. It might have been 98. We could tell, we'll know by the cover of the magazine, of the newspaper itself. It said something within the lines of Karate Kids in Brooklyn or something like that.
Yeah, so it had to be a long time ago because I'm not a kid anymore.
Yeah, yeah, our kids aren't kids anymore,
Yeah.
in my case. So, what was your inspiration, desperation, or motivation to even start in martial arts, and what style was it?
Oh, that was easy. I was the smallest kid in the class and quietest kid in the class and getting bullied. So one day I get home and I put on the channel and there's this little Asian guy beating the crap out of everybody. And I asked my father, like, what's he doing? He's like, oh, he's doing judo. He wasn't doing judo, but to every American guy back in the day, it was either judo or karate. And so anyway, I found out it was Bruce Lee, and I realized that there was hope. I mean, if that little guy could do that to those dudes, man, then I could do that. So, and then my first entry was into the local Taekwondo school down the block from me. So,
And was that a little confusing when you even heard the words Taekwondo? Because I started also, and at the time it was really Murokan Tansudo, but they called it Korean karate, and I was confused because I didn't really care.
karate, exactly. It didn't even say Taekwondo; it's underneath it. Yeah, yeah.
What year was that? How old were you?
Man, I was about 13, 12, 13. I was a late bloomer compared to the kids today, but
Yeah,
I
but
was.
even during that time where you were considered one of the younger ones in the school.
Yeah, no, there was a good deal of younger students in there. There was a good deal of young students in there. But
I
yeah, I was one of the youngest, but there was some younger ones. There was some 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds, and stuff like that.
Wow, that's interesting. Now, had you ever gone to see a kung fu movie before that? Before you joined the school? Was there a process, or did you immediately, what was the timeline before you saw this Kato, I guess?
No, actually, was it no, it wasn't Enter the Dragon. It was Return of the Dragon. That I happened to see on cable. And back in those days, there was no streaming service, so there was only like two cable channels. And So I caught him. That was probably the first kung fu movie I ever saw. And then later on, I got into the more the drive-in movies. Remember the drive-in kung fu movies and stuff on Saturday afternoons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Way
That was the theme music. I don't know why that was the thing. So it's interesting. That what was your lifestyle before that? Were you into sports? Give me an idea before you become 13.
baseball was my love of my life. I was going to play for the Yankees, so that was it. And
Me too.
that was it. But I realized that I wasn't that good, and martial arts was a little easier. So I thought.
So think about the Yankees. Did you know that Roy White was a black belt, and that's the reason he used to climb those walls?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Roy White from the New York Yankees. I was there in 1977. I should say 76 with Chris Chambers hit the home run. I jumped onto that field and I was able to grab some grass. Now, the night before, I should say a few hours before that, I was watching a movie called The Chinese Professionals. And that movie was phenomenal because you had this guy with one finger doing push-ups, and it was so crazy. But yeah, so I was into sport. I was even there when somebody said some choice words about Reggie Jackson's mother, and people don't knew at the time that he was Reginald Martinez Jackson, that Puerto Rican. You don't talk about his mother. He chased that guy down. I was there too,
Mr. October, yeah.
Mister. And I was there, by the way, in October when he hit those 3 home runs. Yes, I was there also.
Those were the days. Those were the days.
I live near Yankee Stadium. I live near Yankee Stadium. So what else am I supposed to do? I was there. I was there good luck, and people didn't understand that I was there good luck. Every time I went to a game, they won. And I was 33 games in 1977, and they won every time.
Yeah.
Or may have been 79. Might have been 79. I get confused. But anyway, so going back to baseball, any other sports that you're interested? Football or hopscotch? You know what we were doing?
No, just baseball and boxing. My dad was teaching me boxing. My whole family was
Now
boxers.
was this in Brooklyn or was it in Staten Island?
Oh, this is Brooklyn. And Brooklyn, Staten Island's
Right.
later years.
Right. So
But that's
Staten Island is the suburbs of Brooklyn. So if you want to move on up, you go to Staten Island. If you're that part.
Yep.
Otherwise, you go to Westchester County or Yonkers over here if you're up in the Bronx. Guys, for those who don't know, Bronx and Brooklyn is like probably the two furthest places besides Staten Island that you could be a New Yorker and be so far away. You could be 2 hours on the train and still not get there, which is
Yep.
crazy on the subway. You know? All right, so now you join the school. It's Korean karate. They're counting hana, do, set, net, and they have these protocols, these clean uniforms.
I,
How did that match up to what your idea of martial arts? Did it make? I mean, because to me, it wasn't consistent with what I saw in the movies. You know, kind of messed me up for a minute, but I followed it.
well, I had two good instructors. I mean, they were like really amazing. So they were really inspirational to watch. So I was impressed with the martial arts, with the Taekwondo at the time. Didn't know there was any other style of martial arts, but Taekwondo because I was, you're young and you don't really know what's around. There, but I think after training for like 6 months, I thought I was like Bruce Lee already. So I decided to get in my first street fight. And that's when I realized Taekwondo just wasn't enough. No offense to any Taekwondo practitioners, but I needed to add onto my style because I got into that fight and I was all ready to give him a roundhouse kick to the head and my legs wouldn't move. They were like lead. I was like, whoa! I was like, what's going on? My heart's going like this and thumping, and I'm like, nothing's moving. And kid gets off a shot, gives me a black eye. I ended up picking him up, dropping him on the
Wait,
floor.
wait, 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 wait. Hold on a second. I was 10 years old. A few months into Taekwondo, I got into a fight. The kid took me down after I kicked him a bunch of times, and he gave me a black eye too. You can't make this thing up. This is crazy.
Right? You can't make this up. So then I went back and I was like, oh, karate sucks. It wasn't. It was me. I wasn't prepared. I wasn't trained, man.
It,
But
it was karate. It was karate and disco. They both suck, man.
so, but then I started to get really obsessed after that. First I got upset, and then I got really, really motivated, and like I'm a martial art, obsessed with martial arts. So, back in the day, even great grandmaster, I remember he would call me up and go, "Who's the guy who does this?" And he would ask me, and I would be boom, throw stuff at him because he was doing a million things. He would always call me back and ask me stuff like that because that was my obsession.
All right, so now you go back, you're training in Taekwondo, you got a black eye, you obviously are like, man, there has to be more than this. So why do you pivot? What you end up doing from there?
Well, I still stuck with the taekwondo. I figured maybe I just needed to get better at it. And but then when you realize when you start playing around with people and who does wrestling, who does boxing, who does different, even judo back in those days, you realize you got. I start to realize at a young age that there's more. You need more. It's not like, you can't limit yourself and stuff like that. So uh, I started to seek different people to train with, and that's when I started to go crazy and cross train and do stuff that you weren't supposed to do back in those days.
Okay, just because this is your specific timeline, who were your Sabanims or Quadronims? What family? Because mine was Supreme Grandmaster Sangsu, Tiger Kim, and company. Who,
Well,
who was your first group?
this is the first time I'm ever mention this in an actual interview. That's weird, but it was the
Yeah.
Kang system of Taekwondo. It was Suchan Kang, was
Oh,
Tyson Kang, and Hosan Kang. They were all the three brothers. There was more than three.
no joke. That if you're gonna do, and the reason I'm asking guys is because of this. Taekwondo and any style is phenomenal, but there's a few families that were at another level. So if you was in Brooklyn, most likely Kangs and Queens, depend. But if you was in the Bronx, it'd probably be Tiger Kim's. If you was in Manhattan, maybe Richard Chun or Henry Cho. So yeah,
Okay.
those are what you would consider the first generation Koreans that were teaching in New York City. So
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and they were nothing short of amazing. They were very inspirational because they didn't
the
just like
demos,
talk the talk. They walked. They were up there training, and even the grandmaster at that time. My God, he was full splits, man. I'm like, here I am, a kid, and I can't do the splits, and this guy's jumping out of the splits, and amazing, amazing, kicking over his head, and he was older at that time, so I don't remember, but he was up there.
he had his sons that continue too, and there's generations after that, and grandsons maybe.
Yep, yep,
They still around. They're still around. And I think at one point they splintered into two different families.
yeah, yeah.
There's always a fallout.
I left way before that, but yeah.
So and then you started training and looking into I would assume Fighting Star magazine and Karate Illustrated and Black Belt because the magazine also.
The newsstand, the guys at the newsstand hated me, man, because I was at the newsstand all the time looking at Black Belt magazine and Karate Illustrated and Inside Kung Fu and all that stuff. So,
We just had an experiment happen where she was making some tea. She put some ice in the mug, and the mug exploded. So my little bit right now is having a hyperventilating. Walk that way carefully, hun. Lay down for a few minutes until it's like somebody shot. It was crazy. Like that's called a scientific experiment where the cold and the heat combines combustion. So, you okay, hun? That was crazy. The thing just exploded. And this thick, thick mug that was in the freezer. And then she put the ice into it. It was frozen. She put the hot tea into it. And then she put I think she got to put ice and it just exploded. That was my chi. Or maybe we were talking about the Taekwondo. It might have been that. You okay, hun? So what were those additional influences when you started researching and looking into alternative ways to add to your repertoire?
oh man, well, one of my inspirational people was Bill Wallace, Superfoot. So I think I took too literally to what he was teaching because he only could kick with his left leg. So I would monopolize my left leg. So years later, when I went to the doctor, my hip, I have a tilted pelvis. They're like, "Why is your pelvis tilted?" Because I put too much emphasis on one leg. Um, I'm here. Because I was really young and just I would follow things verbatim, I guess, and I would watch him, like I'd mimic him kicking, and then I would try to do the same thing, and he was always on his left side. So, you know, fun, fun fact, I guess you would say, or weird
Yeah,
fact.
even though I don't know when did you discover that he was only doing that because he had an injury in the other leg?
After reading from Black Belt magazine, when he had an injury with a judo injury back with his knee, he ripped his knee, and Elvis flew in the acupuncturist and all that stuff. So,
It's crazy, guys. In 1974, there's an actual video of him fighting in Maryland inside of a ring. It was still a point karate tournament before the PK Nationals happened. And he actually is kicking with the right leg, too. And it's one of the few videos you see him kicking with either side.
yeah, I saw that video. Yeah, That's really weird, man. Really.
Props to Mr. Bill Superfoot Wallace. He became a very good friend of mine and mentor in many ways because I'm literally, the guy was a jokester and similar to what I am. And there's a good possibility I'll see him this over in the action martial arts. I'm not sure if it'll happen because it's supposed to be a snowstorm, but So now you look at Wallace, you see him in the magazines, and how do you pivot now towards adding additional things? Are you just mimicking what you see in the magazines, or are you buying books, or are you going to other places? Are you seeing?
The whole things, the Panther videos and just training and practicing, like people, it's weird now because I do a lot of Zoom classes and people are like, oh my God, that's not real. But back in those days, I don't know, I would put in the VHS tapes of the Panther tapes and pick up techniques and then try them on somebody. And I learned a lot that way too, whether it was right or wrong, it worked for me. I don't know, you know,
Well,
and
I'm gonna show my age. I used the Bruce Tuckner books where I used to flip them. I used to move like this, like it was animated.
yeah. I remember him. Yeah. I think he was
Yeah,
from to that guy, right? If I remember correctly.
that guy did. He had books on karate, kung fu, judo, jujitsu. Like everything. Bruce Tuckner, I believe from California. I wonder if he might have been a Kempo Styles also, but it was so interesting because this guy,
Nelson.
he, people don't talk about him, but he was an innovator, and it was actually in print. And you take those books, and since it was photo after photo after photo, if you flipped it, they actually start moving.
Exactly.
It was crazy. So, how about live shows or watching Oriental World of Self Defense over at Madison Square Garden, or maybe even Wild World of Sports? When were you exposed to that?
Oh wow. Yeah, that was during that time spot. I think one of the things was my dad took me to one of the shows, and it was in the Coliseum. I'm thinking it wasn't the main arena. It was
Nassau Coliseum. Wow, that
and
must have been 1975.
no, I was too young. I was older than that, so it
Okay.
had to be one of the later ones.
Well, he was at the Brendan Byrne Arena. He was at Nassau Coliseum. He was at Madison Square Garden, and they actually went on a tour throughout the United States and even Europe, even though he wasn't there because he didn't go to the Albert Hall. Banks did not like flying. Most people don't realize that.
He would send everybody.
Yeah. But the Oriental Water Self Defense actually was on the same tour as like the Rolling Stones, so it's the same people, which was kind of crazy when you think about it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Sid Bernstein, the Beatles promoter.
Well, yeah, that's going back to the 1960s. Bernstein being a partner with him, that's how they did. Well, after he brought the Beatles, like you said, to Shea Stadium in '65, I think Banks put together that security team. I would assume, and then they go to the Waldorf Astoria. We got to give props to Banks guys because Mr. Mormando and I would never have been able to do things if it wasn't for the guidance of someone who'd been there, done that, and mentor. He expanded our horizons to possibilities, and we got quite a bit of media attention because of him. And speaking about baseball, I remember the way some guy in Shea Stadium breaking some boards, even though the crowd didn't want to hear it, but still, um, how did that come about?
Uh, Again, that's all inspired by Aaron Banks because he's done all those things. He used to do all these demonstrations. I used to always sit down and go, why can't martial arts do the same things? Like they do the halftime show in the NFL. Back in those, I was like, why can't we do the same thing? So my management at the time called up. It was Shea Stadium was the Mets, and they opened to it, and I came down there, did a demo in front of, I think there was like 18,000 people at that time, and then they actually broadcast it live on Channel 9. It was Channel 9 at the time, Secaucus, and it was pretty cool. It was who would have thought?
What other places did you have your print or video or images at?
Oh man, Hard Rock Cafe. We did a 25th anniversary for the Hard Rock Cafe. Uh, where else? Coliseum, not Nassau, with Banks one time. Oh man, tons.
So you had an extensive media kit considering you was coming from a group of martial arts, and it wasn't like you was doing movies or anything like that. You was actually doing was it demos, competition, teaching, or combination?
Just demos. Me and the competition world didn't last very long. In the martial arts competition, that wasn't my thing. I wanted to perform um, really early on. I wanted to be like Bruce, you know.
Well, but I did. I would have to beg to differ in terms of your ability because I know that it wasn't that you didn't. That it's not that you couldn't compete. Because I saw you do a weapons form one time that looked pretty freaking damn good, if I may say. So it must have been the early '90s,
Yeah.
and I believe, if I'm not correct, I'm a little. I believe that was choreographed by one of the greatest creative martial artists ever.
Oh,
What did you do for that? Who influenced you when it came to that form?
Sugar Robert Crosser. Yep. Yep.
That guy is so incredible.
Yeah, he choreographed that whole combat routine for me, and pretty good. I won quite a few tournaments with that.
See what I mean? So it's not that you couldn't do it, just chose not to. You was thinking bigger. And when did you actually start teaching? And what inspired you to do that?
You know, once I started to train, and you get really, if you're really into it, and you find out it does so many amazing things for you, you kind of want to just share it, like fun, and so I started to teach really, really, really young. I was like 17, 18 teaching, when I started, maybe even younger. And that,
I started at 16.
yeah. And matter of fact, I was telling the story the other day because it was weird. Somebody was asking me about competition, not on the subject of competition. So I took this kid. This kid joined my school. He's a white belt. He's trained with me like 6 weeks. I think no, maybe a little longer than that because I got him the yellow belt, maybe a couple months. So I got him, get him the yellow belt. He's like, I want to compete. So we're in the tournament, and the kid wins first place in Kumite fighting, sparring. Um, I lose the first 5 tournaments I'm in, and this kid, wins the next 3 tournaments that he's in. Just I just was explaining it to one parent that it's all in the mindset. It's a whole bunch of different reasons why some people will excel quicker than others, and some people won't excel. Especially in competition. But you know a little something about that, right?
Yeah, but just like you, my first event wasn't too good. But I came back to the nighttime finals. At the time, they actually allowed the Pee-wees. Whoever fought for first place was in the finals. And you would come back, and it was at my own instructor's tournament. The whopping total of 2 weeks after I joined.
I,
So yeah, to me, I was ready. My instructor asked me if I could compete. I told my mom. I didn't realize it was a tournament. So um, I got kicked in the throat. Then win. My mother some racial thing, and then I came back in the nighttime finals to spectate, and I said I'm gonna be there. You know, and when I finally competed again, which was this was May of 1976, I went back to the tournament at the Westchester County Center. So it was like a Madison Square Garden up in Westchester, and nobody knew, but they were coming to see me fight. Because since I was in the finals, I was able to go behind the curtain and see everybody coming in. I'm like, yeah, they're gonna come see me, and I took first place against one of those kids that I actually saw just a few months before that. So
nice,
you
nice.
know, after that, I was able to do quite a few things. But in your case, you said it was 3 events that you went to and nothing, and then you was able to, you get good at what you teach, right? So I'm sure once you started teaching, you realize, my God, I'm getting better.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, exactly. They say that's why they say teaching, helps you grow in your art. So that was the amazing part of my life. And early on, everything I did was train was tournament oriented. In the very beginning, a lot of people don't know that, but mostly in kickboxing, we trained a lot of kickboxers and stuff like that. So, matter of fact, my most famous fighting student, was ranked number 3 in the world in boxing, but he started off in kickboxing. He won in Lou Neglia's was the KSCK kick. He was the junior kickboxing champion. And then he comes to me and he's like 12 years old. He didn't reach his bar mitzvah yet because I was at his bar mitzvah. He's like going to be 13. He's like, I'm quitting school and I want to be a professional kickboxer. And of course, I told him that's a great idea. No, I didn't tell him it's a great. I said, of course you got to stay in school. I said, but and I kind of talked him out of the kickboxing thing because there wasn't a lot of money in kickboxing. You're lucky if you got paid $100 a round or $150 a round. And I talked him into boxing, and he ended up going into the boxing world and ended up being ranked number 3 in the world. and his name was Dimitri Salita. So, and he's still a promoter right now. So,
Wow, isn't that interesting? People don't understand that's the case with a few people, including Troy Dorsey, who ended up winning the world championship in boxing. That comes
yeah,
from Taekwondo, point karate, continuous contact, full contact, and boxing. So props to Troy Dorsey and any of those people. Of course, not the only one. There was a Chris Algeria who also in recent years did the same thing from Long Island that actually crossed over from kickboxing to boxing. But it's all martial arts, and that's what people don't realize that boxing, wrestling, all those arts are hand-to-hand combat, which really comes from the military, martial arts,
Mhm.
with or without weapons. So, what made you seek out crossing of all people when it came to the weapons?
Well, when you competed back in those days, you'd watch either Shion Felix Vasquez win, or Robert Sugar Crossan, Grandmaster Crossan, or Shion Lu Ferrer, all those guys. I mean, Shion Freddy Lopez. All those guys were really, Tommy, Kiyoshi Tommy Chen, whatever. I don't I hope I get the titles right, but all those guys were like people that I looked up to and was watching. But it was, Sugar Crossan was the most flamboyant, of them. Like his showmanship was the best in my opinion. So and he was also not far in the neighborhood, and that was it. And I trained with him for quite a few, quite a while.
Now, were they group lessons, private lessons? How did?
Privately.
Wow. Now that takes a little. Wow. I mean, just to think to get private lessons from Clausen, that's pretty legendary stuff. I'm not sure if you was able to document any of it, but can you imagine that? How it would have been?
Yep. I even
Wow.
studied a year with John Danaher from Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, the BJJ guy.
I, oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
One of Henzo's top black belts. Trained with him for a year privately too. I wish I would have documented that, because now he's an amazing BJJ coach. But back in those days we didn't have the phones like we did now, so different time.
And we still had film. It was a VHS tape. And if you was lucky, you would have one, but everything was too expensive. It was $1,000 everything when it first came out. Can't afford those things. Interesting. So now, what made you pivot from teaching to now? Did you do a demonstration team? Was it you predominantly, or was it a combination of the above? Because at one point, demo teams like the West Coast demo team became pretty popular, and
Yeah,
they might
no
influence.
inspiration. Aaron Reyes Jr. and all those guys. But no, my demos were just basically me demonstrating with some of the students and stuff like that. I wanted to craft a show out of it. That was one of my goals back in the day, but just never got around to doing it. I wanted to make like a one-man show. And so that was basically to just showcase the skill sets and stuff like that, the weapons, the self-defense moves and stuff like that. So,
It makes sense. Now, did you ever had a chance to actually perform at the Oriental on self-defense?
oh, yeah, a few dozen times.
Now, throughout the years, the venues changed. So, were you at Gleason's gym, or did you get a chance to do it at other venues also? Because Gleason's gym, guys, listen, Banks was also, and I apologize, guys. We have there's no way in life we can have a conversation in martial arts, him and I, not include Great Grandmaster Aaron Banks, because he was the only person to ever have a show that was live through HBO, unheard of. And when I saw the 1976 Oriental Order of Self-Defense at the Felt Forum, there was two shows the same day. The following year, he was at the main arena, so that was incredible. So, what were the venues that you had a chance to?
Oh, Nassau Coliseum. New World Stages was the last one he did, which was actually it was a real Broadway theater. He had it it was New World Stages. He had it there. Oh man, Gleason's a lot of times he had a long relationship with Gleason's between the tournaments and the shows. They used to have besides the gym, they would have a like what we call auditorium type of thing. They used to have a separate venue. He would host them there a lot too. Manhattan Center
Now, was this Gleason's in Manhattan or was it in Brooklyn at this time? Or was it both?
under the Brooklyn Bridge.
And again, guys, there's a lot of history because the initial release in the gym was in Manhattan, and then when they moved over to Brooklyn, people don't think about it, just over the other side of the bridge, and a lot of incredible. As a matter of fact, when you're talking about um, kickboxing and boxing, there was a student of ours that his father called me and said, "Hey, I want you to teach these my sons." And I said, "Well, take them to the Brooklyn School where Tony Morrison was teaching." And that was Judah and his kids, including Zab, that went from kickboxing to boxing. You know, happens a lot of times. We teach people and then they become. I didn't train them personally, but it was in the functionist karate schools, which at one point we were pretty popular and successful. But so now you're doing these demonstrations, you get immediate attention, you're teaching martial arts. What's the next level?
The next level is I never did a play in any one of my school. You know, when I went to school, grammar school, you know, you're in the school play, so I had no experience, no
I
interest.
was Prince Charming in first grade. I was Prince Charming, and I had to wear tights. I didn't like that part.
I'm not going to comment on that one. I'll leave that one alone. But yeah, I was a shy kid. But I'm doing a demonstration one day, and we're opening up a new location, and I learned how to do press and media from Grandmaster Aaron Banks, of course, who was the king of that. So we call up the local newspaper comes down that day. I jump over some swords and stuff like that. So it makes the cover of the local paper. So great for business, of course. You know, after that, there was no internet, nothing like that. So newspaper was on the cover of the local newspaper. You can't get better than that. So it worked out really well for the martial, you know, the program that I was running. But on top of it, I'm teaching a class, and one of my students picks up the phone, and I go over to the phone, and some guy's on the phone, and he's like, you know, I saw you on the cover of the paper. You know, you could be the next Chuck Norris. That was the gist of the conversation. So I held the phone to my students and laughed, and I said, yeah, whatever, and I just hung it up. You know, hung up the phone and didn't think nothing. I went back to teaching, and next day called back again. He's like, no, I'm serious. I'm serious. So I ended up meeting the guy, and then I got that the what do you call the bug, right? The showbiz bug. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe this guy, you know, maybe he's, you know, makes sense and stuff like that. So that's kind of what started me in the trying to get involved in the entertainment business and you know and stuff like that. But before that, I had no interest.
But now you have someone who believes in your talent, and you're like, wow, so there's a possibility. And I remember at the time, most likely, unless I'm wrong, you took the USA banner and really ran with that. I wore the Stars and Stripe uniform too. Like the coolest uniform you can ever get was a KI Stars and Stripe uniform. That's like having a pimp out. You know, that was it. That was like top notch, the most expensive. Also, besides the Kaidos, right?
Yeah, that was great Grandmaster Banks branding back in the day. We call that branding. You know.
Wow.
Well, before we, you know, everybody uses the word branding, but this guy, like, he created it when it came to martial arts. Like you know, so you have to have a name, and he would come up with a nickname, and he knew how to mix show business with martial arts, and so
Because,
you know, he
because
was.
he came from the entertainment world, right? He came from the entertainment world that people don't realize. You know, Banks himself he was on Broadway working at the Colony record shop, and then that fight he has in 1958. You know, so guys, again, I keep mentioning Banks is because I miss him, man. I miss that man so much. You know,
Long conversations with him. My God.
yeah, I just, well, I mean, I guess that's what happens with you and because I get on the phone, you know, video call, what have you, with Mr. Mormando, and he's one of the few people that I can actually talk about a variety of subject matters with because most people just aren't that affluent. And you know, you are definitely diverse. So I'm always, you know, I apologize because sometimes I go off on a tangent, but you know, I try to share things with you that make you go, because I know you've been around the block a few times, you know, like the family crest that you found out about today, huh?
That's buying an island, by the way.
Hey, they're available. They're for sale, guys. They are for sale.
I would have never
You know,
believed that until this morning.
and the family crest has black and red of all things.
There you go.
Imagine that.
Yep. That's my school colors. That's crazy, right?
Yeah, well, like I said, all of us are really just the modern day representation of a whole people that came before us. And now it's proven in scientific fact, but there's a common denominator too. That why would your wall colors lean towards those two, which is pretty
Crazy,
fascinating when I think
crazy.
about it. How long have you been teaching? And you even teach at a weird, not traditional operation, and you've made that successful, and you've pivoted to make it impossible. You did the impossible, including through the pandemic. Let's talk about that.
Well, yeah, my schools were basically not what do you call common to say the least. So when I first started teaching, it was out of my basement, and then I accumulated a bunch of students and moved to my first commercial place. Then I had two commercial places, one in Brooklyn, and then I got into a car accident and lost them both. So, and that the reason that's why I'm getting into where it was. So I'm kind of done, and you know, the karate part teaching, I could barely walk at that time. First, it was so I had to do the whole regular job thing and go through life without being able to do martial arts. And then one day I was feeling a little bit better, and I in the neighborhood, and I was like, oh, maybe I should rent out some space. So I found a local dance school, and lady's name was April. She's a sweetheart. She's like, go ahead, go for it, teach. So for the first year, I had one and a half students.
How long was the hiatus between? How
Uh,
long were you on so-called vacation?
let's see, it was 90, probably about 4 years, 5 years, maybe more. Yeah, in that range. And then I was once you're a martial artist, if you really love it, it never goes away. So I was like,
What kind of work? What kind of work were you doing? And how did that feel?
didn't feel good because I had to start from the bottom, and the only thing I knew how to do prior to that was martial arts, right? So, and here I am teaching and running my own business, and I go from running my own business to like being in the mailroom. I was in the mailroom at an engineering company, um, and that so it was kind of you know. Plus, I was in these magazines prior to that and newspapers, and it kind of it messes with your mind. It's like,
There's a fall from grace.
yeah, exactly. So it's kind of a weird feeling, and you start doing, and I thought I adjusted a little bit. I did a pretty good job, and then but I got that itch to teach again. So like I said, I went in and I had one and a half student for the first year, and most people would have probably quit, but I
Oh
didn't. And I
God.
started to learn this thing called marketing and advertising, which a lot of us martial artists we don't really focus a lot on. We rely on other people, and I was like, I'm not relying on anybody. So I started to learn how to advertise, and before long, I ended up filling up the school, and now we both own the school now, so we're partners in the school now. But when I first started off, it was just a regular dance school. We moved the stuff out of the way, put the mats down, and that was it.
Well, the good thing is that they took your overhead and chopped it to a minuscule a portion of it and utilized space that was already there. And a lot of people don't realize you have businesses presently that have a lot of dead time that you can actually do a deal. Because
Yeah.
from what I understand, you teach on some unique days too that most people would never even think about.
Yep. Yep. Tuesdays and Sundays, and because those are the only days we can get back in it, at time because they wanted the main days, so they would rent out the non-busy days, and to this day, thank God, I'm packed. Sometimes there's a waiting list.
You also added now. Let's talk about when the world shifted and the pandemic, whatever you want to call it. What did you end up doing then?
Well, it's fun. I wouldn't say funny, ironic. We'll use the word ironic. About a year prior to that, I couldn't make a seminar. I'm a martial art like fanboy too. So if there's something I want to learn, I'll call up the top dude and try to and learn it. So there was a in the Jeet Kune Do organization that I belonged to. They were learning some new techniques, and I wanted to learn them. I couldn't get to the seminar because it's very hard for me to travel. So I reached out to one of the people, and I said, "Can you do me a favor?" It wasn't Zoom. I'm trying to remember what it was. It was not Zoom at the time.
You stream.
No, it wasn't Ustream. What was it?
What
Facebook?
was it? How about Google Hangout?
No, it was before. Keep going. There's one more. There was one before that. I forget what it was called.
Anyhow, let's just say that whatever it was of the day, 'cause I'm going blank right now too, but
we do is
So he pointed to his phone or the camera, or what was it?
yeah. So we did the I did a private lesson with the guy, and after I did that, I was like to my wife actually helped me because she's a martial artist as well, so she was my uke, right? So we're demonstrating afterwards. I'm like, this could be a thing, you know. This could be, thing. We wanted to actually open up a program, but we just never did. It fell on deaf ears. And then slightly, COVID happens, and everybody's closing the schools and freaking out. And I said, let's just do what we're gonna do. And my wife said, let's just do it. And we were up and running probably the following day. After the maybe 2 days after the first initial shock, what the hell's going on? We were up and running pretty quickly, and then till this day we still run Zoom classes. So like when it snows, just jump on. They jump on the Zoom, and it's the same thing as being a person. Can't spar, but you could do your techniques
Where's the set at?
in my dojo, in my house.
And now this is not in Brooklyn.
No, that's in Staten Island.
Yeah. When did you move your place of residence to there?
14 years ago. 14 years ago.
I actually remember going to your home with my friend Carlos Blanco one time,
Yep.
way back when. Yeah.
Yep.
That's when I was in New Jersey, so I went right over the bridge.
Yep. I think I was in Brooklyn when I went to visit you in Jersey at your dojo when you had the dojo there. I remember.
Yeah. Interesting, right? So, pandemic happens, you pivot towards online. Pandemic is over, and now you have classes twice a week physically, and then you have the virtual class that happens an additional once a week, or that twice a week also?
Three times a week.
3 times a week.
Yep. Yep. And that's all due to my wife. I can't take any credit for it because as soon as COVID was over, I was like, great, let's stop. And she's like, I want to keep it going. I was like, okay, that's what she does. If you ever jump into my Zoom, she'll teach 98% of the classes, on the Zoom. Once in a while I go and teach, but she runs the most of the Zoom. And what we notice when it comes time to testing, any of the kids that do both, because the Zoom is free to the kids, the students that are in my school. So anybody that does both will always do better on the testing. Just I mean, I guess it's common. It's like obvious the more repetition, but it's just amazing how much better they do when they put more. When they put more, the technology helps it instead of hurts it.
So if my memory is correct, you also did some joint ventures with after school programs and some board of education, which again, guys, there's an alternative way to earn income while teaching martial arts, very what you consider eccentric, so to speak, or versatile, or most people don't do that. Let's talk about some of that.
Oh yeah, see, almost my mentality always was, like a lot of martial art people growing up, we're not fans to say the least. But everything I tried to do was to better martial arts because I would watch we'll go back to the Yankees for a minute. We'll go back to like Reggie Jackson. We'll see Reggie Jackson doing a commercial for like Coke or Pepsi. I was like, why can't martial art people do that? Or why can't um there was a play that I was in. I was in a play called Tony and Tina's Wedding, and there was Lee Mazzilli was a Met and a Yankee baseball player. There was Vito Antifermo, all these guys were doing guest appearances. I said to myself, why can't a martial art guy do it? So my team reached out, and I ended up being, I think I was the only person ever to do that in martial arts. Go on Broadway and be in play for a month, and I did it as a guest star. And I was so. Getting back to what I was trying to say, I always look at martial art. Why can't martial arts do this? Why can't martial arts be, on TV broadcast? Like, why can't, a tournament be on NBC or ABC? And that was always my belief system is that, and so my daughter was in an after school program, and I'm like, they had everything. They had chess, they had um, blocks, building blocks, and all these things. I'm like, there's no basketball, but there was no martial arts. So I was like, and I reached out to the program director, ended up starting the program there, and we've been doing that for like 14 years, 13 years. I think it was a year after we got here, about 13 years. And
those are multiple streams of income via martial arts in itself, and most people just have one stream.
And we reach a lot of people and better their lives, I believe, martial arts, because people just don't realize it. Like a lot of the parents, they'll bring their kids to the karate school, and they just don't realize what they're missing out on. You try sometimes to like not recruit them, but try to motivate them to train, and they don't get it. And it's a shame because I think everybody should do martial arts at some capacity.
Yeah, so let's touch on that for a second. If you was not a martial artist, who is Paul Mormando then?
Who is he? That's it. That's who he is. Other than
And that's
the family man, that's who he is.
and that's the whole thing, guys. That literally, and we're born for this thing, even though sometimes we started later. But I've seen you pivot, right, which is really what it is. They call it everything is pivoting is the key, where you start going towards another angle. And your wife, you're fortunate enough to have a partner in life that's phenomenal because realistically, I think she's the executive producer of some of the things you've done too. Let's go towards that. A movie. Why not do your own movie? Damn it!
Mm-hmm. Yep. I was getting frustrated, going on auditions and stuff like that, and we both talked about this once. You actually, you more than me said that you hate the Hollywood atmosphere, and I agree with you 100%. It's as phony as can get. But anyway, so rather than have any limitations, we decided let's make our own film. And so my wife had the job of writing the script and casting and directing and all that wonderful stuff. And that's how that came about. And so besides me
But you
breaking
have to.
the martial arts,
Who
like
learned about the cameras? Because now you can't do a movie without a camera, and then the cameras were expensive, and you had to figure out what the heck.
yeah, well, the camera guy we hired, so that was we cheated. We hired the camera guy, we had a sound guy and all that stuff. Now techie stuff is not my forte, but making your own movies is like making music. Like if you're a musician and you make your own record. Well, no, it's not record no more. You're not even a CD no more. You make your own song. But it's cool, and technology makes filmmaking so much easier. You can make movies on your iPhone, which you know.
Incredible. So, who is Paul Momando in 2026? What is this guy looking at doing? Is he retired, getting ready to just pack it in? Because he's been doing it long enough. Where are we now?
Well, I went from being in the spotlight, trying to be in the spotlight, to being a family man for the last few years because of some home stuff. But 2026 is going to be my rise to fame again. I'm gonna make some more movies, and you know, maybe I'll compete in your tournament. I don't know. We'll see.
Wait a second. The UMAN OG, when you heard about that, what did you think?
I thought that was a great idea. I mean, especially the way you described it to me, and for the people who competed. I mean, people. If you watch, I didn't get a chance to go to the last tournament because I'm always working. But if people really knew who was actually competing in the tournament, or who came to that tournament, it would be like being in a Motown reunion back in it, like with all like amazing, the talent that was there. Just that, again, martial arts thing, they don't get the recognition that everybody else does. Till this day, till this day, we don't get the recognition. People will say, well, Conor McGregor or the UFC guys, and I don't want to offend them. That they're martial artists, but it's a different thing. It's a different area. I'm just talking about the lay martial arts guy, layman, the regular traditionalist, or the martial artist, or the point martial artist, or the forms competitor or something like, just the regular martial arts competitor, not the gladiator type competitor.
Right, and we love them all, guys. I mean, again, you said it. Does it? And you just, I didn't. Like, I just learned something new about you. I didn't know you was involved with G though. I did see you um, quite a while ago doing the Filipino sticks too, and I see that's part of your repertoire. Which is how did that come about?
Well, when I started the martial arts, if had I known, I would have, and had I had the opportunity, I would have trained with Jeet Kune Do because of the influence of Bruce Lee that got me started in the martial arts. But we go to our local dojo, which was great for me. Anyway, but I ended up going full circle because I started to get, as I got more involved in the martial arts, I had more opportunity to train with different people. I was now's the time to learn Bruce Lee's take on martial arts, and we could probably have another 5 hour conversation just on that. But the man, um, I could get very controversial and say something negative, but I'm not going to. Um, I think we immortalize Bruce Lee too much as a fighter, and he's never proven himself as a fighter. He's an innovator. I mean, he's a great performer, but he didn't fight like Bill Wallace, Jerry Fast Fontanez, Joe Louis, Mike Stone. He didn't, fight like that. So so like when Michael Jai White makes a comment, people attack him like that, and I have nothing but respect for Bruce Lee. I'm a senior instructor in his art. I'm just saying it like it is, you know. Like I don't consider him the greatest fighter that ever lived. I consider him the greatest martial arts influence of all time, but not, just like I don't like the word goat, greatest of all time. If somebody is a goat, then why do anything else? Like if we'll use it, we'll say basketball. Michael Jordan is the goat. Then why play? Like what? How can I not be better than him or surpass him if you're already categorizing him as the greatest to ever be? So I don't like that terminology, and we do that with Bruce Lee all the time, and he is an icon. Just like Elvis Presley is an icon, I guess, in music, and Michael and those guys. But you can't like he's not the greatest at everything that ever happened. You know what I mean? Like I sparred with Bill Wallace in one of his seminars. You don't want to do that.
Well, this is what I believe that you're saying. It was never proven. No one can deny that. Yes, we can see the characteristics probably would have done phenomenal because
Definitely.
there's no question about it. An athlete in 3/4, a genius, no question about it. But the fact was, he was 5'7". He was 135 pounds on average, and he was not into competition. However, it doesn't mean that he didn't help Joe Louis, which is the closest thing to what would be vicariously competing, and use those concepts, no question about it. He did use Muhammad Ali's tapes and play them backwards to work on his strong side first. And no one's gonna ever deny that both of us would have never been in martial arts if it wasn't for that Cato guy that we saw. And the same thing with Michael J. White. So yeah, I felt um, really bad when people were attacking him because they didn't understand what he really meant. But
Right.
Michael J. is one of the greatest martial artists I've ever seen that actually went into the movies to do that. And for whatever it's worth, I don't think he gets enough credit because it's not a little guy, man. This dude's a big dude. And he's doing split kick, roundhouse kicks. He's doing his own stunts. He's writing movies. He's starring in movies. He's in Jerry Springer. This guy's the hardest working martial artist of all time was Bruce Lee, and then it became Michael Jai White. And ironically, I was so happy that he won the Bruce Lee Award. How was that? When you saw that, did you see that?
I did actually. I did.
I think that was a little redemption
Mhm.
to his character when it came to him not being derogatory. Because he was there as a fan in Seattle, Bruce and Brandon's, which I haven't had a chance to visit. The closest I got was the Star from Hollywood, where I'm sitting down because, and my closest thing to Bruce Lee was, Joe Louis recipes. You know,
That was wild, man.
yeah. So let me ask you another question, if you don't mind. It's 2026, and there's a new thing called AI, and you're one of those people that in the last year or so I've been messing around with artificial intelligence, and since I respect your judgment based on modern day marketing, I've sent you a whole bunch of stuff like things like this. Um, what can you say about what would be the future of advertising, marketing, and even movies? Can you do AI?
Wow. AI, everybody knows AI is taking the world by storm. But like for example, the other day we were on a conversation and you did some marketing stuff that would have taken maybe a week or 2 weeks, a couple weeks, and you did it while we were on the phone and sent me something, and it was just a sample, and it was just amazing how AI could do that so quickly, and for people like me, like I don't like to work with a lot of people, so I'm more of a I'll do it by myself, thing. So having AI agents, I think they call it agents, doing things for you that's that's amazing. That's amazing, and I'm curious to see how far it goes. And even in the movie business, I mean, there's stuff now that they're saving tons and tons of money, on just you can recreate scenes and even B-roll if you don't want to make it like the main part of the movie. There's just amazing things that are being done with AI, and it's only a matter of time before full movies will be done. You know.
About a year ago this time, I also sent you a song
Yep.
operation. How was that?
Again, I mean, think about, I don't know, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Let's say me and you sit down. We're gonna go. Let's have somebody write a song for us. Well, then the song, they're gonna come up with the words, and they're gonna go over and over again. They're gonna write the words down. They're gonna have to get the music put to the words, and then it's gonna have to be arranged and all that stuff. And you're talking about months. I don't know. Maybe I never wrote a song, but you were able to do that in how long did it take? I don't know.
Well, it depends. If it goes to my head and I have to do it in a minute, I will do it. It's ridiculous, just like that. But understanding how to do it is not really that easy because people think, oh yeah, I can do a song. Nah, man. I figured out a way how to do it where
But
it, yeah, I'm not impressed by too many things. So when I do things where I blow myself away, I'm like, what the heck? Like I don't type, but just with one finger and one hand. But I would battle anybody to make websites years ago or to make apps years ago. So I embraced marketing in the techie world, not as a technology guy, because I never learned how to code, I never learned how to even type, but more of a marketer. And it's like giving out flyers. But the first flyer I made, I had to do a Xerox copy, and I had to do stencils because at the time, those were the tools of the trade, so to speak. So
yep.
to me, anytime technology comes in, all it is a modern day version to give out that flyer or the virtual flyer, the QR codes, the text tool campaigns. And that's the reason I was able to become successful because of my ability to get reach
Yep.
to people. And then there's a percentage.
And most people don't adapt. They just want to stay in their comfort zone and stuff like that.
Now, in recent years, we also found out things about ourselves that, like, obviously, I tell people how I understand I'm a type A personality and I get into characters, and Fast Feed is my alter ego character, and I learned how to manage Fast Feed by being Fontenay, so to speak. Is that what happens to you? Do you get into a different mindset and you go from the shy guy, solopreneur to something else?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, like if you're in my inner circle, you know that I'm not, almost never serious because I believe if I have no time to be serious and dramatic and so everything's very playful around my environment except when we're training or except when we're doing serious business stuff. But and then of course when you're performing you have another side of you where you got to be serious and doing fight scenes and 100 million times and you're like exhausted and stuff like that. So there's multiple personas, I have multiple personalities.
Well, we actually we all do, but I think people don't embrace those. Like I would assume that your relationship with your wife Anna. I mean, I see your guys as an inspiration. How long you guys been together?
28 years.
Now, think about that. How many people? 28 months would have been a long time in relationships, you know.
Oh,
So, but you guys go out on dates. You guys. You got. Listen, let me tell you something. I want to thank you and her because I knew that it wasn't an easy time, you being a grandparent and everything, but you came all the way to the freaking Boogie Down Bronx for a birthday party. What the heck was that about?
you're all ready to dance until I saw the breakers, and then my hip went out on purpose.
You said it's like being in Beach Street.
Yeah, I was like, no, I'm not auditioning for this one. No way. You had amazing, like legendary breakers and there, man, it was amazing. It was something to, yeah, you had to see it to believe it. You had to see it to believe it. And usually at a party, if you come, I'm dancing on the floor. Like if you come, after a while, I'm dancing, but no, not that night.
Yeah,
So
that was
she
it,
was
it was
teasing
it
me.
was so cool to watch, right? I'm watching you and I see you dancing from the sea. I'm saying, oh, he wants to get up, you know.
I wasn't gonna get up and no.
Yeah, but the whole thing about it was that you were oh so busy that day.
Oh yeah, we taught all day and did our thing, and being, a grandparent and taking care of the grandkids and all that wonderful stuff. And then out to the Bronx to watch Beat Street Part 3.
And this interesting part again, I'm going back to, my obviously my little bit is a friend of yours too on Facebook, and she's always commenting on the she loves animals and she loves children, and to see you on dates with your grandchild, and on the different stages of that, that's probably a part that many martial artists have never shown, and because of social media, we get a chance to show some of the diversity of ourselves. Like, and then you have a birthday not too long after, and then you're going out on dates. I said it twice already, but I love when your guys go out on dates because you take that photo. Hey, I'm going out with this chick that I just met her again. Like after 28 years, you still have that same passion. But you're best friends, I would think.
Yeah, and we work together, teach together. So it's rare. It doesn't happen often. We have a lot of couple friends that they can't wait to get away from each So I don't, it worked for us. Some people don't work, but it works for us. And having your wife as your best friend is awesome. She always got my back, I always got her back, and it just works out really well. No complaints here.
It's interesting because I also shared something with you that people thought it was insane, and there's this thing over here called I don't know if you can see it. There you go. And that's a super patch, by the way. And
I patch on somewhere.
it, you're stripping. Hold on a second. This ain't OnlyFans. What the heck?
Oh, wrong platform. I thought it was old.
No, but now wasn't that crazy when I started sharing some of that with people, and you're like, "What the heck is this?" And of course, us being older guys and not believing in anything, it seemed impossible, didn't it? Wasn't it? I mean, what do you thought?
Yeah, so like I'm watching you do these patch things and putting on people, and I'm like, nah, I don't, I'm not easy. I don't believe things. I have to be proven, to things. So like, I'm the worst when I go to a seminar and somebody tells me like, does that wrist lock work? I will show me, and I'm like, well, I don't mind getting hurt because I want to see. But anyway, so the patch things, I see you putting these patches on these people, and they're walking and they're doing, it's improving their lives. I'm like, nah, I don't know, this doesn't seem right. So of course, I looked up some of the information, and I was like, all right, if it could help my ability to focus, because I know, back in our days, I don't know about you, but there was no such thing as ADHD, or they didn't diagnose you, or I was never diagnosed, or by whatever it was. But I know that if I could be looking at you 1 minute and then focusing on something, on 500 different things, and I know if I could focus, and even though martial arts helps you focus, it does, but I need some more focus. I know if I could focus at my age right now, that I get more accomplished. So I said, let me try the patches. So I put the patch on, and it started to work, and then what made me realize it was I didn't order the next group of patches, or I didn't expect it to take long in transit to get to me. So there's a little bit of a lag time, and I wasn't wearing a patch. And then I woke up, and my wife was like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "There's nothing wrong with me. What's wrong with you?" and we're going back and forth. And no, something's wrong. You're off today. Something's different. And realize then when I put the patch back on, it was like, so that to me was 100% proof, because she had no idea. She didn't. I don't even think I told her I put the patch on, or wasn't wearing it, and she noticed it. So that's how I knew, because she'd be the first person to say that's full of shit or something like that, and she didn't. She's like, no, go buy a year supply of patches, so you're not grumpy no more.
Yeah, you told me that. She said, "You're driving me crazy. Put up the damn patch."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh my God." And that's the whole thing, that sometimes, rarely, there's things that actually work the way they're supposed to, but 99.9% of the time, in my experience, is all full of crap. I mean, it's just nonsense. That's what they got to have money back guaranteed, because most people don't even exercise the right to do that. But there are tools available for people to be able to perform better, whether it's from the outside in, like I said, that I do with what would be the super patches. I probably have 9 of them on right now, just so you know. I mean, in all honesty.
I only got one.
Yeah, and then you also have. But I made a mistake last night and did not take off the freaking boost, so I didn't sleep. Oh my gosh! And I realized, what the hell am I? And I look, I still got the boost on, and that's what messed me up. I had the REM and the boost, and I couldn't sleep, and it was like it was crazy. But we also shared some information recently. As a matter of fact, there it is, all the different types of patches. There's 13 different ones. We're gonna add 4 more, and we're helping people, so on and so forth. There's one I had the rec suits, uniforms that some people got to wear them worldwide, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a little version of my timeline. But peptides are the biggest thing recently, and I shared a little information about that, and you inquired about that. So these are the things, guys. There's tools out there that you can actually use to help your life, and people just don't invest in themselves, and it's sad because they can help.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, who would have believed that putting on a patch? But if you look,
it's,
if you do
it's stupid. It sounds so dumb. Like what the heck?
science and the tactile and the way it's designed, and it makes a little sense. And then if you actually try it and you see it works, you'll realize, wow, it's just amazing what technology. Again, it's technology, right? It's the same thing. It's different, but it's a similar thing. It's and there's like you said, there's things out there that could make you, enhance your life, and why not?
Yeah, I strongly believe that you could give it a shot to whatever it is. Like you gave it a shot to martial arts. That's how it started. Let me give this thing a shot. Let's try something different. You gave it a shot to being in the play. You gave it a shot in terms of reaching out to the media. That's what it is. So initially, it's a little nerve wracking because you're not exactly sure the end result is going to be. No one wants to be rejected. Come on, but if you really visualize it, and I'm sure that's probably what's the case, you visualize yourself in those positions before they happen. So then we had the so-called deja vus.
Exactly.
Begin with the end in mind. I started doing firewalking with Tony Robbins. And I thought I was the biggest crock of, and then when we did, I was like, oh my God. And then I started skydiving. What the hell? So we can always challenge ourselves in areas and I started skydiving, being afraid of heights. Imagine that.
Wow. I
I
didn't know
don't
you.
want to be afraid of heights. I don't want to be afraid of heights. So I said, let me skydive and it helped. Same thing. Um, you're big with dogs, right? How would your house be without those canine babies?
A lot less hair, a lot quieter, but they're still my babies, and you know, they're good for your moods as well. They really do stabilize your mood. They make you happy,
Even,
and
even at 5 o'clock in the morning?
maybe not at 5 o'clock in the morning, but and when you heard one of my dogs, he sings. I think he's got anxiety, so he screams, and it's weird.
And that's the whole thing we have. Obviously, you saw and you see when my little bitch says your dog, she loses her mind. She wants to go through the freaking, the screen. And we got 2 little ones also. So that's something, guys, that I think your home is different if you don't have those canines because they really show you unconditional love on a whole other level, man.
Oh yeah, definitely, and the loyal thing, most loyal things you ever seen.
But they're also real good for protection. I don't mean the fact that they'll bite somebody, but if they don't like a person that walks into the house, that's always a sign.
They know. Yep, yep.
And babies too. Babies and dogs know that that person's intentions may not be the best. Combine that with women's intuition sometimes, and we don't listen to it because we're not that smart. The guys are not that smart. Damn it. We want to
We're
we
smart,
always
but
want to test things, you know. But let me just say because I don't want to take too much more of your time, but I think we went full circle. What's going to happen when you see what would be something like this for you? That's what this is all about. It's not about me. It's about you, or I should say us, all of us one.
that's one. Yeah, I love that slogan, by the way, because it's true. It's true. It really is true, especially in the martial art world. I mean, in life, but in martial art world, it's really is true. So, but yeah, that would be amazing to see a timeline like that.
Well, I think I mentioned to you what I want to do, guys. And those of you watching that to Facebook or Facebook, however you want to say, um, we're literally gonna do. I'm trying to figure out ways to bring some joy into people's lives and show my gratitude and appreciation for what would be any of their. I mean, this guy comes from freaking Staten Island. Listen, from Staten Island to the Bronx on a rainy, cold Saturday night That's impossible. If you would have said, "Hey, I can't make it," because that's legit. Oh, you made it, bro. So to me, you know, it's great. It's my gratitude. But I want to do a reveal. I want to tomorrow night at 10 o'clock. I'm going to invite whoever can make it in the group, and I'm going to reveal a variety of things for everybody. And I think that in itself is going to be pretty cool.
That'd be
You
amazing.
know,
I'm home by 10, so I'm good. I'm on.
so the idea is to bring some form of excitement. You know, if we could bring Christmas, you know, to late January and have people open their package, but it will be this. I think this is something that will make me, first of all, I never heard of that. Like, so it will be part. You guys will be part of history or
Yep.
history because that's never been done before. But a lot of times, martial artists don't even act like humans, and in the fact that they don't show their love and their passion. If it wasn't for social media, guys, I don't think we would have been having this conversation because how would we even reach each other?
Right.
You know, so you embrace social media pretty well. Uh, honey, stop scaring people again. I told Jesus Christ, a little bit of wisdom here. Don't be jumping on the show now. Like that's a word from our sponsor. Yeah. Oh my God. So anyway, any parting words and shout outs that you want to give to people so you don't get in trouble before we end this?
Uh, wow. I'll still get in trouble anyway, but that's besides the point. But no, no, I think we covered everything. I think we covered everything.
So if there's anything that people um, don't know about you or people want to contact you, what would be the best way to actually do that?
Oh yeah, it's easy enough. I'm always on all the platforms. I'm on Facebook. My name, Paul Mormando, and I think I'm on Instagram with Mr. Karate USA. I don't remember, but I think that's my handle.
You also have your website
And my website, momandomartialarts.com. Right? Yeah.
and feedback of what I mentioned to you earlier about having the UMAN OG's profile be one of the pages of the website. What do you think about that?
That's amazing. That's something that's never been done before. You know, that's amazing.
I think it'll help the people with their credibility just to see that their information's in the new platforms. Of course, you're gonna be able to use like one of the guys already said, I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna print it and make it really big in my school and put that as my map because it is your timeline map. So you know, there's a lot of options. You know, I
A
mean,
lot of options. People they're not used to that. Martial arts people are not used to the kind of marketing. You know, it's like usually the what do you call it, cookie cutter or boiler
yeah,
temp. We're a different entity. You know, and we got to be treated differently. You know, because we're a little bit of personal development and a lot of some fitness and mental health. We're a lot of different things. We're not just one dimensional, and that's the problem. So people like if you hire somebody to market for you, they don't really know how. They just think we break boards and kick people in the head, and we do a little bit more than that.
yeah, and that's the whole thing. That's 100% correct. I've had people make fun of me, and not directly because they don't, you know, like, oh, this guy's selling snake oil, like snake oil. And I was like, initially I was offended, and I said no, but it makes sense. It's like it looks like like what the hell are you doing, man? You freaking got people with this stupid patch thing, and you're making believe that they can't that they can't move, and so I don't blame people. But initially, you get defensive for a second, but I don't blame people for being iffy or second guessing. Like even martial arts in itself, there's people in life that never did martial arts and still were okay. They got home safe and they were able to still be successful. It just is just the path that we chose. But then that path that we chose has so many winding roads. And who would think that in 2026, Paul Mormando and Jerry Fontenot be in the Jetsons speaking to a video camera that we don't even know how the hell the damn thing works while it's being broadcasted somewhere else and then recorded and stuff. Like, oh my God, what amazing times we
Crazy, right? Crazy stuff.
It's the Jetsons combined with the Flintstones. Because even me, I'm doing the Flintstones with one finger, but if you do it in the right area, you're able to literally create some magical stuff. So, Paul, my brother, I appreciate you. I am a fan of yours. I hope that, by the way, guys, years ago, we actually did one over the phone. We actually did an interview many years ago over the phone. And I want to see if I find that. I know I have it in the in YouTube up there somewhere. But I'm just happy and grateful. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for so many reasons. And I probably respect you the most as a husband, and then second, probably as a grandfather, and third, probably as an entrepreneur. And then the martial artist is in there in all aspects of it. But you're multifaceted. I highly appreciate the fact that you never gave up. So you're an example of what would be tenacity and so on and so forth. Your ability to pivot and pivot and pivot and roll with the punches, and you haven't given up. So I thank you for that because you're definitely, whether you realize it or not, you're being a role model, but against all odds. You know, um, that movie that the initial movie that you don't even like because you want to do better. Even that I respect. The key saying, I could do better. I could do better. I could do better. I could do better. Because I could relate to that. So those are all those things that I can say from the bottom of my heart. I respect you, but it continues to happen. I mean, we spoke earlier today,
Yep.
and then here we are speaking again the second time. And I know that based on your busy life, you carved out some time for me and us. And I want to
Oh
thank
yeah.
you for that because I know you don't. I know one thing. You won't do it. It's not for everybody. I know that. You won't travel from Staten Island to freaking Bronx for anybody either. I get that.
No, no, no. I have to respect the person. So I respect you. My God, 30 years? How many years?
Long time. That's what I know. Long time.
Long time. You
Yeah,
know.
and we just begun. We just begun. We have projects that we've talked about briefly at times, and if it works out well, we'll do some joint ventures to continue helping people, doing the do. We respect martial artists. Sometimes we don't like them because we're weird. We're crazy people. There's something wrong with us, but there's something wrong with us is also that we want to help people, and sometimes our limitations become those roadblocks. But I think in a nutshell, the older we get, the little more selective, of course, we get.
Yep.
But we're making some pretty good decisions. I believe we're making good decisions, and I bow and I salute you, sir. I respect you.
Thank you.
What's your parting words,
Um,
if you had to say anything?
just keep training. Just keep training and never give up.
Okay, on that note, when I say AB, by the way, AB means Aaron Banks, great grandmaster Aaron Banks, which I never called him by his first and last name, but AB. And then C is respect to what would be Joe Corley. The A is also for Mr. Mike Anderson. These are my three mentors in marketing, and these guys were phenomenal, each of them individually, but collective. Oh my God. If they were not involved in the martial arts, trust me, martial arts would not have been the same.
Exactly.
So when I say AB, you know what to say. AB,
Yeah. Have a good one.
see ya. He's the shy guy. Thank you very much. God bless. Thank you, brother.
All right.
All right.